Welcome to the SOB radio show, where we have fun, interesting guests, and hot topics. Each week, we offer insights into music, fashion, health, fitness, and humor. Do you have the perfect guest for us to interview? I want to know. Drop me a line on our Facebook page at Spunky Old Broad 1 or reach out to me on our website at spunkyoldbroad.com. And now, back to the show.
Hi, everybody. I am back with Pattie Grimm, and I want to remind you to subscribe to our Spunky Old Broad YouTube channel. If you would do that, that would be wonderful. But Pattie, as you have heard from her prior segment, is a real believer in women, as she says, kicking the glass ceiling. So let's go back, Pattie, and talk about changing resiliency, emotional agility, and grit. Why are they so important for women today?
Yeah, I mean, this has been a great conversation, Gail. You're a great interview, so this has been a wonderful conversation. I think one of the things to think about is that in today's world, in the normal or in the new, whatever you want, like we talked about, there is no new normal. There is no going back to where we've been before. How do we fall forward? How do we move forward and progress? And resiliency is so important today. We'll talk kind of a little bit about each one of these. Resiliency is the ability to bounce back, the ability to look at setbacks or things that happen to your life. And if you add emotional agility on top of resiliency, emotional agility is the ability to look at the world with your eyes wide open, look at the good, the bad, and the ugly, and to be able to learn from it. Instead of trying to push down and ignore something that happened or get angry and upset, which you can get angry and upset for something for a little while, but don't throw a pity party and get over that. Have the agility and resiliency to look at that event and say, here's what happened to me today, right? Maybe you were in a meeting and somebody did something really inappropriate. Here's what happened today. Yeah, you can get angry for a minute and say, I'm really ticked off about this, but then step back and say, what happened? Why did it happen? What did I learn from it? And what would I do differently next time to create a different result? You see, we can only control ourselves. You can't control anybody else. You can't control your significant other, your children, your boss, or anybody in your circle. You can only control you and how you think, how you react, and how you respond. So resiliency is that ability to bounce back, and agility is that ability to look at the things that happened to you and say, what did I learn from it? You can also look at those same questions. If something goes well today, what happened? Why did it happen? What did I learn from it? And what would I do again to create a similar or better result? And so those are the skills you need, the flexibility. I wrote an article for LinkedIn called Resiliency. Will you bend or will you break in all the craziness going on right now? If you break, you're going to have a tough time getting yourself up again. If you can bend and be flexible and say, wow, that was interesting. What did I learn from that? What could I do differently next time? And so asking those kind of questions to help build your resiliency muscle. So next time someone attacks you in a meeting, you don't get upset. You simply calmly respond and say, well, that's interesting, but here's my point of view. And here's my point of view. So those are really critical skills today, to have that muscle and flexibility to be able to, make it through this crazy time.
Well, I have to admit that I think men do a better job of that than we do. There's a lot of us who carry things around and forever, and they tell us, they tell it to everybody but somebody who can do something about it. And,
I know.
And it just drives me crazy when people do that. And one of the biggest skills, and I only learned this maybe 5-6 years ago, was how to forgive. I really learned how to forgive, and that made things so much better. So, what do you think that women can do that would help them get their dream job and career? I don't think today there are as many men blocking women. I think there are more women blocking women in their own heads, So what are some of the things that get in the way of women achieving that dream job and career that they've always wanted, which very often when they get, they don't want it after all. But that's a whole other subject.
Yeah, I think there's two things that get in women's way that also came out of my research. The number one, we talked about briefly before this break, is this image of perfectionism, trying to be the perfect mom, the perfect wife, the perfect boss, the perfect employee, the perfect this, perfect that. And that perfectionism is what prevents many women, like you said, from going after that job they know they deserve because they don't think they're ready. And here's what makes perfectionism so damaging. Here's the definition that I found. So perfectionism is a personality trait combined with overly high, unrealistic expectations, with being overly self-critical and caring too much about what other people think. So that's really damaging, to try and be this perfect image. You could look at the person you think is the most perfect movie star or athlete or coworker. You could look at that person and say, oh my gosh, isn't Jennifer Lopez, for example, the most perfect person in the world, or whoever it might be. And I guarantee you, deep inside, there's still a little girl that's looking for approval of saying, am I good enough? And I want women to get over that and just realize that play to your strengths, be strong, stand up, stand out, but really get rid of that idea that you have to be perfect in everything. Find people around you who have strengths that you don't. When something doesn't go well, just simply learn to say, oh, well, I'll do it better next time. Or ask yourself those questions. What would I do differently next time to get a different result? So perfectionism is the number one thing that gets in women's ways of achieving their dream job. They don't think they're ready. I was that spunky old broad even when I was in my 20s and 30s, and I went for jobs that I probably was way out of my league. I actually went and ran a customer partner experience team in Asia and lived in Singapore for 3 years. I'd been to Asia twice on a business trip. My husband had never been to Asia until we went for our house hunting trip, and I'd already accepted the job. But I went for it. And that first day I walked in that corporate headquarters in Singapore, I look around and I'm thinking, oh my gosh, did I do the right thing? And I did. It was the best professional career move of my life. I had to learn a whole bunch of new things, but man, did I thrive, and man, did we have a ball. We sent our son off to college. We moved to Singapore. We traveled all over Asia. In Phuket, Thailand, 20 times in 3 years, in Sydney, Australia. So it was the best decision of my life. But I didn't let my insecurity that I was maybe not ready stop me from doing that.
Yeah, I can imagine what a wonderful time it was, because I did work in Singapore and my older son lived in Singapore. So we went, we had a wonderful time there. And I have to tell you something that happened to me that never happened to me since or before. And I was doing a program on how to handle difficult people. And one of the things that he had told me he said, well, what are you going to talk about, Mom? So I gave him my examples. And one of the things in the type A personality, I was talking about a Sherman tank. And he said, Mom, they don't know what a Sherman tank is. You should say bulldozer. They'll know what a bulldozer is. So, but when we had our break, because it was a full day seminar and we had a break, a man came up to me with the most gorgeous, when I say gorgeous, I mean gorgeous bouquet of flowers that I have ever seen in my life, and huge. And he said to me, you are wonderful. I never had it before. I never had it after, but I did have it in Singapore. So I thought that was kind of an interesting thing. So do you think that men are helping women today achieve equality and equity and parity and access? I think many of them are.
I think a lot of them are. And I think also on the opposite side, I think a lot of men right now are afraid. I think they're afraid to mentor or sponsor women because they're afraid they're going to be accused of sexual harassment or something like that. I think because they felt so attacked a couple of years ago that they have retreated into this moment of, well, I can't mentor a woman. I can't take a woman out to a business dinner without somebody thinking I'm sleeping with her. So I think we have to get over that. We need men to be our allies. We need them to be our sponsors. We need them to be our mentors. We need men to help teach women the business in a corporate environment. So sometimes when men mentor women, they work on things like their confidence and their presentation skills and their people skills, but they're not teaching them the hardcore business of like profit and loss statements. How does a corporation make money? What are the biggest strategic initiatives? That's what women need to do to really break through that glass ceiling and get to those next level positions. They need to be able to have a job as the vice president or the senior director for sales in North America, not head of HR, not head of marketing, which is traditionally where women are going. We need to get them into the profit and loss money making business units where they can get that experience, so they have that experience to go to the next level. So a lot of men are helping. I just want them to understand that when she rises up the corporation, you do not fall.
Yeah, that's key. And of course, I used to work with a lot of HR people in my other business, and very interesting that I thought, kind of when I went in there, they were the end all and be all. And I really found out that they really don't have as much power as I thought they did.
No.
And their opinions are not asked for as much as I thought. So,
Right.
you've already mentioned that it's difficult now for men to mentor women. But you also mentioned that it was important, no matter how old we are, to have a mentor, or a sponsor. So, how do you suggest a woman go about, especially if she is over 50, go about getting a mentor or a sponsor? Is there a technique or a methodology for doing that?
Yeah, so look around your company or even in another company in the same industry. Look around your organization for somebody who's 2 levels above you and somebody who was very admired in the company, right? Somebody that people want to go to work for, they want to work around, they want to be with. The person that has a good balance of the head, the IQ, and a good balance of the EQ or the emotional side, being able to lead people effectively. So look for that kind of individual. Then ask them to go to coffee. Well, ask them to a virtual coffee now.
Yeah,
And
right.
simply say, I'm interested in advancing my career in these areas, and I'm looking for a really great sponsor or mentor, and I really admire you. Would you be willing to mentor me? And here's what I would like to suggest. We have a 30-minute Zoom meeting once a month, once every 2 weeks, whatever works for them. And I can bring you my issues and challenges, but really what I want you to do is help teach me the business. Help me think like a business person, not just like somebody who's maybe in HR or marketing or something. So definitely reach out to somebody and really consider somebody younger than you, because they might be able to teach you some things that you don't know. We call it reverse mentoring.
Yeah, it's not, and that's not a bad idea. I'm thinking of how many lunches and dinners I had with men uh,
Mm-hmm.
in my business, my first business, and my husband never questioned it. I mean,
No.
he knew. First of all, he knew that I was all business, and the only thing on my mind was my business, my career.
Mm-hmm.
So he had no problem, and he didn't like being in the limelight at all. So I always had men in my life telling me things because they were the only people I did business with.
Yeah.
So it's kind of interesting how um, the corporate world works versus entrepreneurs. The entrepreneurial world, Patty, is so much different than the corporate world, don't you think?
It is to some extent, but because if you're an entrepreneur, you need to do business with corporations or with companies or with governments and people. There are some parallels there. So I think there is some difference. There's obviously a lot more flexibility, a lot more freedom, but there's a lot more pressure when you own your own company. It's a 24/7 business. You don't
Oh,
turn
for
off your
sure,
you
for
don't you don't
sure.
you don't turn off your brain at 5 o'clock and go have a cocktail or go turn off the brain. You're still working and thinking. I mean, I get obsessed with things, right? When I was writing my book, the reason I did so much research and so many interviews was because I got obsessed, and I'd be watching Good Morning America at 7 o'clock in the morning. There'd be some story about some woman doing something, and I'd like stop the TV and I'd take pictures and I'd go grab my pen and I'd write stuff down. I could be at a restaurant and I could be doing something and I'm thinking, wow, what could I be doing here? So you're absolutely become obsessed with the business. I think when you're an entrepreneur, it's not like you can just shut it off at the end of the day and just go home and, not think about it. You're thinking about it 24/7.
Yeah,
And I
you're
think
absolutely right. I mean, that's how I was. So, how do you think that we best, you and I, how do we relate to women in the younger generation?
I think we need to recognize. I have so many friends that are baby boomers that complain about millennials, let alone Generation Z, which is already coming into the workforce. We have a four, almost five generations working together because baby boomers are working longer, and millennials and Gen Zs are starting to come in as well. I think we need to be able to relate the fact that when we came into the workplace, we did many of the same things. We wanted to be president of the company or head of the business or run our own business in the next 10 years. Well, they want to do it in the next 3 to 5 years because everything's accelerated. Recognize that the way is based on how they were raised. When we were kids, we drank out of garden hoses. If we didn't have safety seats, we didn't have child seats. If I was home before dark, my mom thought something was wrong with me. Children today in the Gen Zs and the Gen Xers and all those kids and millennials were raised in an environment where they are very protected. And so it's just a different way of, so recognize them, recognize their talents, ask them for help. I don't understand how to do Instagram. So have a millennial teach you Instagram, but then teach them the business and how to move forward. One of the questions you asked earlier is what else do women do that get in their way? I think the thing that women do that get in our way is when we let our pride get in the way of asking a millennial for help, or when we sabotage instead of support, and when we compete instead of collaborate. So help them route out their career, but also help mentor them in ways as well so that they can be successful, because they're going to be running those businesses that you and I have run for years.
It's funny. When I was teaching assertiveness for women 20, 30 years ago, and I asked, who would you rather work for, a woman boss or a male boss? 90% of my audience said a male boss. They didn't want to work for another woman. I think they were afraid of the competition. They were afraid of the feedback. I mean, whatever it was. I think it was really very interesting to me. So, you know what movie I adore, and I could watch 100 times because it's so true, called The Intern. I don't know if you saw it.
Oh yeah,
Robert
I
De
did.
Niro.
I did. Yeah.
Robert De Niro and gosh, I have the name.
Anne
Yeah,
Hathaway.
Anne Hathaway. I thought that was so brilliant and so true. And I thought, she was going through problems with her husband and her marriage because she worked so much, and that's just not what millennials do. And he was very wise, and didn't want to ruffle the feathers because he was a epitome of corporate America. But I just thought it was a delightful movie, and I just wanted to mention that in case anybody hasn't seen it who's listening to this show. Make sure you go out and you get it, or you rent it, or you find it somewhere, because it's fantastic.
Definitely rented, because I think that could be the idea of the reverse mentoring, of having somebody that's teaching you something, you're learning, and you're teaching them something different. So let's leave this. I want to leave this world a better place, right? Yeah. I want to have women paid equally. I want to have all this stuff. And the interesting last piece of research recently showed that organizations that have a high percentage of women in senior leadership positions are more profitable. They have higher revenue, they have higher employee engagement and satisfaction, and higher customer loyalty. So we do need more women in those senior leadership positions. So I want your audience to go kick some glass for us.
Yeah, I think that's so true. And you mentioned before about the countries that are doing the best are the ones with women leaders. And it has always amazed me that here we are, supposedly the strongest, wealthiest country in the world, and we would never have had a woman president. And I thought for sure when Hillary Clinton ran, she was going to get it. But again, there were women opposing her and not liking her. And that always amazed me. And I think she raised a wonderful child. Chelsea is doing a fabulous job
Oh, yeah.
and writing wonderful children's books and raising three beautiful children. So, it's just, I don't know. I think we're living in a very chaotic world, and there's just so much yet to do and to learn and to so forth else to do what else we can do. So, is there something though specifically that a man can do to make sure that a woman gets a fair shot?
Yes, more than just being a mentor for a woman, I want men to be sponsors. What a sponsor does is a sponsor will help promote the woman to the organization. So when I was getting ready for that international assignment, my boss, a man from the UK named Oliver Roll, was the one who put me on that executive potential program so I could get that position. He was the one that promoted me to the manager, the senior vice president in Asia, and said, I've got this great person I think would be perfect for this role for you. They need to verbally, visibly support them, not just in applied ways, but do it in very concrete ways. And they can also do it like in a meeting, a very simple thing. In a meeting, if a woman says something, many times it gets unheard, even in Zoom meetings. I say something, you say something, it goes unheard, everybody keeps talking. I want men and women, if that happens, to say, wait a minute, Gail had a thought there that I think we should explore, and be able to visibly, again, support that person, mentor them, take them to the business lunches, take them places, teach them the business, but definitely not just be a mentor, but be a sponsor that promotes them within the company so they move to that next level. Research shows men get promoted on potential. He has the potential to be a leader. Women get promoted on performance. Once they perform at a certain level, they prove themselves, then they're ready for that next position. You need to promote women based on their potential, not just performance, and recognize they're going to be a little bit different than how a man makes a decision.
Well, Pattie, you have given us so much information today. I hope women listening to this are really fired up after this. So, where can they find you and how can they hire you? And I don't know if you have a gift for anybody, but you certainly are welcome to share that.
Yep.
And just tell us how to find you.
The easiest thing, I'm a pretty simple person, so send me an email. And it'll be in the show notes, I'm sure, too. But it's pattiegrimm@live.com, and that's PATTIEGRIMM at live.com, PATTIEGRIMM at live.com. And I will send you a free PDF guide of how to write your personal vision. That's one free gift. The second thing I have, they can obviously email me there if they want to hire me to do speeches or presentations or coaching. The final gift I have is my book normally sells on Amazon for $18.95. It's full of resources and the 5 proven ways to be an empowered woman leader. If they email me or go to www.womenkinkingglass.com/book, so www.womenkinkingglass.com/book, you can get my book for just $10. That includes free shipping and handling in the U.S. Outside the U.S., you have to pay for shipping and handling, but also $200 in free bonuses. So there's training, there's resources and tools. So $10, $200 in resources, and it's womenkinkingglass.com/book.
Wow, that sounds pretty good. So you got a bunch of stuff that you can get from Pattie. You know how to find her. Remember, it is an E on the end, PATTIE.
Mm-hmm.
And then Grimm with 2 M's, GRIMM at live.com. So wonderful, wonderful hints today. And I'm just glad that you had a guy that was behind you. And what do you think made the difference for him? Why did he recommend you? And, why were you so qualified to be who you became?
I think he saw the potential in me that I could do so much more and I had so much passion to give and that I was the right person for the job at the right time. The region at the time was pretty much in chaos, so they needed somebody that was different. They didn't need the standard Microsoft cookie cutter person. They needed somebody who was different to go in there, and we had a huge impact. Our customer satisfaction went from a very, very low number, 94, to 165 in less than 18 months.
Oh my gosh. Wow.
Yeah.
How wonderful.
Yeah. Yeah.
Well, folks, you've heard it here and you heard it from Pattie. So take advantage of her offer, get her book, get her whatever she has to offer, use it. So I want to thank you, Pattie, for being such a great guest today, and continue the best. And when and if I ever get back out to Rancho Mirage, I am going to come and see you.
Yes, and we will have lunch or dinner at either Enzo's or Trilusa's. Two amazing
Yeah, I've been to Enzo's, but I haven't been to the other one. So either one. No, wait a minute. Is Trilusa the one that's in the in Cathedral City?
Right, by Mary Pickford Theater.
Yep. Yes. My aerobic teacher took me there. We became great friends. I become great friends with just about everybody. Well, I can tell you this has been a delight, and thank you so much for being with us today, Pattie.
Thank you so much.
It was a wonderful show for me.
Thank you. It was a delight talking to you. I loved it.
Hi, this is Dr. Gail, and I wanted you to know I have a whole bunch of other things to offer you. If you go to spunkyoldbroad.com, you will see an array of SOB stuff for sale and all our latest products and additions. If you're interested in getting on TV, I have a brand new course, Get on TV. And if you want to start your own business, you'll want my SOB Guide to Business Success. I know you'll love them all. I guarantee it.